How's it going, everybody? Welcome to WeDoTech. So last week we took a look at the RTX 3080 Ti, which was actually a pretty good card if you want to get 3090 like performance for gaming, and of course if you had the budget. But now today we're going to take a look at the bit more affordable, quite a bit more affordable, but also newer RTX 3070 Ti, and especially the one we have here, which is the gaming OC from Gigabyte, and see how this boy performs. Alright, so firstly, let's jump into the specs and then get into the pricing, which again is going to be a big factor, and then performance, and we'll decide if it's actually going to be a card to get. Now, specs-wise, the new RTX 3070 Ti, unlike the 3080 Ti, is a upscaled 3070, being much closer towards the 3070 than actually the 3080. It's entirely the opposite than what the 3080 Ti was, again, being much closer towards the 3090. Now, the overall specs are just a slight bump up compared to the 3070, and also with the same amount of VRAM, but the biggest difference between the 3070 and the 3070 Ti now is that the 3070 Ti does have a GDDR6X memory like the 3080 instead of just GDDR6 non-X memory. Now, this does give it a boost in a memory clock speed and then also a bandwidth, but also it does draw quite a bit more power, which we'll get into. But now, is that going to be the necessary performance boost that we'll see in games, or will it not? Well, we're gonna find out. Looking for a VPN but want to pay less and get even more features? Well, Surfshark is the VPN to get. I've been using them for more than a year now, and I'm definitely not disappointed. Surfshark has over 3,200 servers across the globe with limited speed drops, unlike some others. Get all the standard advantages of a VPN, like no geo restrictions to access US and Netflix from different countries, no government restrictions on news, and get a better prices on flights, games, and software. Not only that, but Surfshark features industry-leading encryption, multi-hopping for a next-level privacy, a kill switch to prevent any personal info from being leaked, and one of my favorite features, unlimited devices. So you can use a single Surfshark account for the entire family and on every single device without the need to pay more. So follow my link up below to save 83% on a 2-year plan with also 3 months absolutely free. Try it out, and if you don't like it, you also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So go check out Surfshark VPN. Now, for pricing, the 3070 Ti should be going for around $600 MSRP wise, which of course we know doesn't really mean a lot these days, but at least there are some moves that the retailers and so on are actually implementing to make it closer to that price range, like pre-builds or even doing GPU bundles with power supplies or motherboards or so on, which does help out quite a lot. But now, anyway, that does put it right in the middle between the 3070 and then also the 3080 with $100 on either side. This is not bad at all, but the question of course will be, is the performance going to be right in the middle as well, or is it going to be closer towards the 3070 or maybe the 3080? And is that $100 really going to make that big of a difference? But where the real difference, of course, might come into play, or possibly not even, it's that the 3070 Ti and also the 3080 Ti does have a mining limiters on the hardware side instead of software only, like we of course saw on the 3060, which does mean that miners who actually buy these cards for mining are super desperate or just kind of stupid, to be honest. So at least it's a small win for gamers who also has a lot of money to spend on GPUs, if you can actually again get stock off, because it's not necessarily just miners that's the problem, it's just the GPU shortage or chip shortage thing across the entire world, which does hammer GPUs and just everything chip wise. So of course that is going to boost our prices if you don't want to wait for actually cards to come in stock at MSRP. So it's just going to be a struggle across the board, really. But with all of that out of the way, let's take a closer look at the Gigabyte RTX 3070 Ti gaming OC. And design-wise, actually, unlike the 3080 Ti, which again we took a look at, the 3070 Ti does actually look a bit different compared to the other 3000 series gaming OC cards from Gigabyte, but also not necessarily by that much. You still get the same sharp-edged gunmetal gray and silver design with the triple fans, of course, but the colors are swapped around a bit more, and the edges at the front and the back sides are also a bit different. You do also still get the somewhat same silver metal backplate, but on the 3070 Ti, the air pass-through at the end is much larger than the other cards, and you do have some more cutouts across the backplate as well compared to, again, the others. You do still have the same BIOS OC and a silent mode switch. If you want to get full performance or a quieter card, you do still have that. And then of course the same dual 8-pin power connectors on the side. But now quickly take a look at the back for the I/O. You do now get 2 DisplayPort version 1.48 and then 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, which of course can deliver 8K at 60 FPS and then also 4K at 120 FPS on a single cable, just like a DisplayPort 1.4. Now, as for a power draw, running all of our games and benchmarks and so on, we did see a max hovering around 300 watts, again close to that 290 watts TDP from the spec, which is again quite a bit above the 3070. Now also that was without an overclock applied, and if you do add one, which I do of course recommend to get that extra boost in performance, that will bump up the power draw a bit as well. So we do recommend going for at least something like a 700 watt power supply just to be safe. Now, as for cooling, just like the other gaming OC cards from Gigabyte, you do have your 3 fans that have been smartly tuned, so the 2 outer fans rotate counterclockwise like normal, while the center fan actually rotates clockwise. So this does help reduce air turbulence and just help out with cooling a bit more. The fans also have a fan stop mode, meaning that if the card doesn't have any load, the fans will stop spinning and just keep it nice and quiet. But as for how the entire cooling system performs, it did actually do a pretty good job, ranging around the mid-60s under full load, with the fans running around 76%. Pretty much exactly the same like the 3080 Ti gaming OC we did last week, so they're pretty close. Now then, finally getting into the benchmarks, and for the system that we use for this one, we did pair it up with an i9 9900KF clocked at 5 GHz on all 8 cores and 32 gigabytes of memory running at 4000 MHz. Also, the drivers that were used was pre-release drivers, so performance should increase or might increase later on in the future, and sometimes there are a bit issues going on with pre-release drivers. So now as for how the 3070 performed, just like the specs showed, it is much closer towards the 3070 than actually the 3080, and really not by much. The 3080 Ti was much closer towards the 3090, but the 3070 Ti almost feels like it's a bit lacking. In some of the games, it pretty much did the exact same FPS as the 3070, but for that I also kind of blame it more towards the driver side on specific games, not a lot really, and again, being pre-release drivers. Now, the 3070 Ti did close the gap with the RX 6800 in some games, but in most games where DLSS wasn't an option, the 6800 was slightly in front. And also, AMD should be releasing their Fidelity FX Super Resolution later this month, which will help out most AMD cards and also even some of Nvidia's like 10 series cards. So that will also increase the performance or close the gap between DLSS quite a bit more. But I still don't expect it to be as good as a DLSS, so Nvidia will still have that upper hand. Now, I didn't do any 1080p benchmarks because these cards are already so powerful that 1080p isn't really worth it anymore, especially if you do pay such a high price. But because of the jump in resolution, VRAM usage also jumps up quite a bit. In 1440p, the 8 gigs of VRAM was good enough, and I think it will be for some time, but a 4K, which this card can actually do quite well, especially if you do add some of the DLSS, it really does make it worth it, is where it might get a bit more tight, especially in a couple of years. Like on a Call of Duty Modern Warfare on 4K, again with DLSS applied, the memory almost maxed out. Now, of course, this is only one example, and not everybody will be playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare on 4K with DLSS and all of that, but it is something to keep in mind for future games, especially with the quality jump that we are seeing added towards the games and the possibility of a DLSS increasing as well. So then, in the end, is the RTX 3070 Ti, the names are just getting way too long again, is it actually worth it going over the 3070 or even like the 3080? Well, honestly, for me personally, if it was my money and I don't know if I could have gotten it at MSRP, and also if there was a stock, I would honestly still rather go for the 3080. Now, it's around $200 more than the 3070 for the 3080, but the boost in performance is such a large jump, and I would honestly rather save up and go for the 3080. But this is possibly where the 3070 Ti might actually be the best bet or the best card to go for, because there will possibly be a stock. If there is actually stock, miners won't buy them, so there should be a lot more of them actually available. And if Nvidia was smart and wanted to make gamers happier, then they would possibly even reduce the production of the 3070s and rather focus a bit more on the 3070 Ti's. Of course, I don't think they will, but that would help out the gamers a lot more, and that's honestly the only reason why I will say you could go for the 3070 Ti. Again, if the price point is right and if there's actually stock, which we don't know, because there should have been stock on the 3080 Ti, but there isn't any stock. So now as for my thoughts on the gaming OC version of the 3070 Ti, it's actually pretty decent. Now, of course, this is going to be more on the lower price point of, I think we hope, of the 3070 Ti's. I think that's where a lot of people might actually get this card. I do like the design a bit more now. Didn't like it previously, but it's growing on me. And I do also like the backside. The power cables is still visible there, which is the same for most of the other gaming OC cards, but it doesn't really bother me that much anymore. I would have liked it was cleaner, but it's not too big of a deal. And I do like the quite a large air vent here on the backside. I don't know, it looks cool to me. And as for the rest, performance was good. Again, it's not going to be as powerful as, let's say, the Aorus card coming out. Those ones are, of course, going to be clocked much higher, but you can overclock this card and it's going to increase your performance a bit more for free. Yeah, overall, it's a nice card. Performance was good, cooling was good, noise was also kept to a minimum. So overall, a nice card. Again, if the price is right and if you can get a stock. And I like it that we can stand like that as well. But anyway, that's pretty much it for my review of the Gigabyte RTX 3070 Ti gaming OC card. A big thanks to Gigabyte South Africa for sending the card over for review. If you guys want to get it for yourself, if there's stock, I will leave links in the video description. And if you guys like this review, please like, share, subscribe, and comment like always. And I'll check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.